I grew up with what a lot of people would call a broke mentality. The most famous words in our house were, "We can't afford it."
No matter how noisy the world gets,
no matter how loud the world gets,
our goal is simple: influence
empower,
and activate.
You can always
be louder. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Louder Podcast. It's me, Josh Vasquez, aka The Josh. And today I am joined by a super amazing guy, a man who has been creating massive impact in his industry. And he is all the way from the USA, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you the CEO and founder of Lead Ninja, Slade. Gene, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Josh.
Awesome. Hey, Gene, we've been connected on Facebook for quite some time now. And, the reason why I brought you here is because a lot of people listening to us right now, they just want to have an idea of what real success really is. And for me, you have been that person who's not just, doing all the talk, but you're actually walking the talk and you're showing people how it's done. What I really appreciate about you is how you show people that you have life that's not just, it's not just purely business, but you make life your business. So, Gene, for those people don't know you, what's Lead Ninja? What do you basically do?
So I grew up in the heating and air conditioning and plumbing trades, even a little bit of electrical. My father, when I was 11, he owned his own company and he said, "Boy, if you want clothes, come to work." Yeah. So I did. I spent probably 10 or 11 years in the field inside of the trade, learning everything, and eventually ended up starting my own business. Owned that business for 6 years in one day, and we created it from scratch, and we sold it for a nice 7-figure profit. And when I was in my mid 30s, I went into semi-retirement. So I spent maybe 6 months just trying to figure out what else it was that I was going to do. And that was when Lead Ninja was born. So Lead Ninja helps technicians in the service industries and owners to make more money, to work less, and to get home for dinner on time. For those of you that don't know, and I know you do know, Josh, I have 6 boys. Yeah. And so family is super important for me. What I know about a lot of service workers, most of the time we're in positions where we don't get to tuck our kids in. We don't get to have dinner with our kids. Those are some of the most memorable times for me growing up as a kid, were those conversations around the table and the connection that was made between the parents and the kids and between siblings. So super important to me to keep a good focus on that. And I don't do as good of a job as I should do. I really don't. A lot of times I get pulled away or distracted by other things or work, or heck, when you work hard, sometimes you just want to take a beat for yourself. Just take a minute for yourself. So I've been running Lead Ninja now for 8 years. We do on-sites where we travel around the country, sometimes out of the country, and we'll work with people for 4 days. And we've got one of these live events that now we've been fortunate enough to have a big enough customer base where we can rent out these 12, 20, 30,000 square foot mansions, and we bring people into them and we live with them for 3 days. You really get to connect with people on a different level when you do that. And then the impact from there, it's a ripple effect, like generational change and transformation. It gets us super excited.
Wow, man, it's crazy. Like, just hearing about that right now, like if you can see in my camera, I got my 4 boys, pictures of my 4 boys literally stuck in my camera right now. And you're just making me want to go home right now, man. I
am home right now. Fortunately,
you are home right now, right? Like I'm just a few blocks away, but it's amazing because as men, and maybe we have a lot of male audience right now in this podcast, but whether you're a woman or a man, there's so much value in really being able to spend time. I think that's the goal, really. It's to solidify the basic unit of society, and that's the family. I grew up without a dad, right? And so right now, when I have my own kids, I got my boys. Like I told myself, hey, I'm going to be the best father that I never had. Hearing you say that, it inspires me, man. Like it inspires me to figure out a faster way, like I'm not hustling because I want to be away from you guys. Like, right. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on like, number one, like men and women who are temporarily, is that really part of it? Like right now you get to spend a lot of time with your kids, but was it really the process? Is it really the process that there's a certain time, a period where you just really got to sacrifice?
Well, I think people people talk about balance, right? And I think that for me, what I've found successful is I'm not, my kids know that sometimes I'm going to be away for 8.
Wow,
they know
okay.
why daddy's going out to do it. They know why I work, because they've seen me go through periods where I had to work every day, just about every hour, and I barely saw them. And then they've seen periods of my life where I will work 2 to 4 hours a week, and I can spend all of the time that I ever wanted with them. But here's the key that I have seen: no matter how much time you're able to spend with your family, to be present, like fully present with them while you're with them. It could be 10 minutes. Like with 6 boys, there's not a lot of time, not a lot of me to go around, right? So if I sit down with them eye to eye, face to face, and I show some real interest in them, and I'm actually just present in the moment, no phone, no distractions, none of that. Even if it was, we just got to go get out and get in the car and take a ride. Have those moments where you can be present and the kids feel like they matter, like they're important. Where are they going to go to for that sense of importance?
Right.
Think about it. Answer the question for yourself. It's going to be their peers, no? Do you want your daughter finding that kind of somewhere other than at your home and with you? How are they going to feel like they can come talk to you if you don't spend that time? So it's not about spending 2 hours or 4 hours, although that's nice. But to be present in those moments and to not have any distractions has made a big difference for me and for my family.
It's like the quality. You're talking about the quality, right? Not just
100%.
And I love that. I love that. Like, talk to us about how your childhood was. Like, you being a super successful man right now, like based from majority of the world standards, seeing you having that level of success. How was it for Gene? How was it for you, man? Like, were you programmed to think like an entrepreneur? I know you said your dad brought you there, but like, how was it like? You mentioned being at the table. Like, what was it like for you there?
I had a really fortunate upbringing compared to a lot of people that I know. And that doesn't mean that everything in my life was the way that I wanted it to be or that it was perfect, right? I grew up with what a lot of people would call a broke mentality. The most famous words in our house were, "We can't afford it." My father owned his own business, and he really owned his own job because we were not a big business. It was just 2 of us. So, but that provided him freedom to be able to watch us grow up, to attend our games and things like that. And we would eat dinner together every night, whether it was at the dinner table or if it was on TV trays in front of the television watching a show. I had a really, really fortunate upbringing. I was always told that I could do whatever I wanted if I put my mind to it. I didn't have the resources around me to support that. So I had to go out and find my own way and find people that were smarter than me and just shut up and just listen.
Yeah, but you were given that affirmation.
Yes, I was given that affirmation. And I was always super motivated as a kid. You know, motivation comes from right inside here. And there's got to be a why, right? So I remember sitting in class when I was in 5th grade, and I remember writing down how much it was going to cost me for the house I wanted, how much it was going to cost me for the car that I wanted.
At 5th grade.
What was electricity? What was all this other stuff going to cost? Because I was hypersensitive to not being able to afford it. So my brain went to work at an early age to figure out how I could afford it. And it wasn't until I was probably 21 that I was listening to Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book, where his mentality is not, I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? And that was a real transformational period for me in my life, because I still live with that mentality today. The wiring's still there. Now I've got other neural pathways that I've wired for myself to kind of combat that. But man, those roots are deep, right?
You can't dig them out. It's not as easy as, you know.
I'm sitting here in a $2 million house, right?
Crazy.
And I've got that broke mentality. Like, it's crazy, man. So it's something that I'm working on daily, and I have coaches that are constantly helping me with that.
Yeah. So when you think about a broke mentality, I think it has something to do with like thinking of scarcity as well, right? Like, you know, I figured that I thought it was just here in Manila where, because, you know, here in our country, we hear a lot of that as well. Like, we hear parents saying, hey, you know, we can't afford that. It's not within our budget. And like, hey, mom, can I get that? I'm sorry, that's not for us. It's only for rich people. So now you're thinking that you're poor. Like, it just gets stuck in your head. You're poor. You know, like, we hear GC say this a lot of times. Grant Cardone, he says middle class is a myth. Like, it doesn't exist. Like, it's either you're rich or you're poor, and the middle class is dying. Like, a lot of people, they're raised thinking that they're just okay, but in reality, they're not. They're just going down. It's either you're going up or you're going down. Talk to us about how you were able to have that transformation. What was a transformation moment? I know you had a bit of was that a breakthrough moment with Robert Kiyosaki? Was that the first time that you had that? Was it like a series of events? How was it?
It was an insight. That was simply an insight. We hear things and we're like, oh, that's great. That's mind blowing. But if we don't do anything with it, then it's just an insight and it's valueless, right? So for me, it was about every single day that I was in a truck out doing a job as a technician or a salesperson. Every single day, making sure that I was putting into my brain that which I wanted to get out of my brain. So it wasn't just Robert Kiyosaki. It was Les Brown. It was Zig Ziglar. It was Jim Rohn. It was Brian Tracy. It was all the greats. I'm constantly putting that into my brain while I'm driving around. I had 2 to 3 hours of windshield time driving around. It's a massive opportunity to motivate yourself and to start thinking different. Like we were all wired a certain way. But the good news is that we can rewire our brains to think a certain way. It's just got to be intentional, right? But if your brain is left to just go out and float into the universe and think, you're going to have probably 50,000 negative thoughts a day. We have like 70,000 negative thoughts a day, depending on one study that I saw in one study. And like 90% of them are negative. Like I try to keep positive stuff going in because I and everybody else were naturally negative. We're wired negatively so that we survive. I try to block out that stuff by forcing other stuff in.
Yeah. And I also saw a study like our brains were just wired for fight or flight. Yeah. Right? Like it's just survival for us to think about the worst case rather than the best case.
Yeah, it's just about surviving, and it's not right and it's not wrong.
It's neutral.
So drop that it's right or wrong, y'all. It's not right or wrong. It's just what's so.
It's a thought.
Yeah, it's just what's so. And there's we could go way, way deep on that, but I don't think we probably even have enough time for that.
Yeah. It's going to be in another episode. Yeah. But I love that, man. I love that. So the journey of entrepreneurship, it's a mind game, right? It's a mind game. And I believe that entrepreneurship, it's not just a job. It's not just a career. It's a lifestyle for most people, right? For myself included, like it is life for me. And I don't see myself having entrepreneurship and then separating life for that. Like one of my mentors said that it's not like about work-life balance, but work-life integration. Like how can you integrate your work and your life and make them really complement each other instead of contrast each other, right?
Perfect example would be my wife and I.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
She worked for an attorney's office when I met her. I met her like 10 years ago. Turns out she worked for one of my companies 10 years ago. We had never really had conversations, but we rekindled later. And so she was working for an attorney. And I was like, listen, we love spending time around each other. You'll never see me or her like separated other than right now because I'm doing this and she's shopping real quick. And then she's going to come back, pick me up, and we're going to have lunch. But I was like, babe, we want to have this life where you're able to travel with me and you're able to be with me. And so we brought her into the business right now. She goes everywhere with me. When we go to Pigeon Forge, we're going to do that again in March. We just left there. We had a 12,000 square foot mansion there with a bunch of our clients that came in, and we had this theater and we did this whole event. Like we took 2 or 3 days to drive there. We drive 300-400 miles a day, stop someplace, explore the town, eat some
I saw
food,
that. Is that the picture with the booze? Is that the picture with the booze behind you?
We do have some drinks occasionally around here.
The one in your car,
yeah, we have that's right.
That was the picture, right?
To the ceiling.
Yeah,
with all kinds of food and drinks and stuff for everybody. So we went there a couple days early, and then we took 3 days to drive home because we were tired afterwards. But it was more about really just spending time together and not pushing ourselves.
You don't mind the drive?
No, it's a life by design. Well, I do like the drive if it's 300 miles a day or less. I don't want to drive more than that. If I'm going to do that, I want to take a plane, and that's a whole different conversation. I don't like flying. I like flying, but I don't like flying commercial. I like flying private, and that's expensive, So it's $40K for that trip, and I'm not spending that. So one day I'm going to be able to justify it. I've flown private, I think 5 times now, and 100%. It's the most amazing things.
100%.
Not having to go through TSA.
So yeah. Like most people, when they think of, I guess, bringing their family members at work. By the way, where are the kids right now?
I've got 8-year-old sitting on the couch right there playing some video games, and my 16-month-old, the nanny's putting him to sleep right now for his nap. And the other ones are out, but so I've got 2 in the house right now. Okay,
I'm getting practical advice here. Like I got 4 right now. So when people think of help, we do have one. So
think about that, guys. For those of you that got kids out there and you don't have help and you say you can't afford it, you really can afford it because you're spending all the time doing laundry and dishes and all this other crap. We don't do any of that stuff. Yeah. We don't do any of it. We need another house worker so that we don't have to touch anything, and every moment we have can be spent doing something we want want, something that benefits the family, or just hanging with the family.
I mean, for me, washing the dishes and like washing clothes, it never was a thing for me because I value time so much. A small percentage of that paying a help versus my time, because I know my time is expensive. So if you're an entrepreneur, like you better understand how much an hour is worth for you. Like an hour to think. You know, people would be saying, hey, you're not even doing anything. You're just thinking there. Yeah, but me thinking about things is expensive, right? Like
I put my time at $5,000 an hour.
That's awesome. You
So
better know
if it's not worth that, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Like most people don't know the value of their time. That's why they just freely give it away. Is there an ROI for this? Like if I do this now, what's the ROI? Like even if I spend time with the kids, like I know if it's an ROI moment or if it's just them trying to, you know, just randomly be kids. Or is this a teach moment? Is this like a learning moment that I really got to spend time with them, right? Maybe I need to spend an extra 20 minutes talking about this certain lesson, right? Maybe, you know, maybe there's just, just correct them briefly or just spend a brief moment sitting down and just talking about a lesson in life, right?
Or asking them questions. You know, it's so funny you say that. One of my kids, I was spending a little bit of time with him and I asked him to do something and he said, I can't. And I went, wait a minute.
Wow.
Hang on a second, Xander.
Did you say
I said, we're Slades. We don't say can, because whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Correct.
Now, Xander, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And he said, it means that if I think I can do something that I can, and if I think I can't, that I can't. And it was a great teachable moment. Well, 3 weeks later, him and his brother were in the bedroom and I could hear Charles say, I can't. And Xander said to Charles, we're Slades. We don't say can't, because whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So Charles, what does that mean? And Charles repeated it back. Right? You don't realize sometimes the opportunities that you have if you get them to think instead of preaching at the kid.
Correct. Like you're challenging them in a positive way to think for themselves, right? Like, hey, what does that mean?
School's not going to teach them to think. School's going to teach them to memorize stuff, which is the lowest level of thinking. Right? They won't teach them to think of themselves.
Tell me you're homeschooling them.
I'm not
yet.
homeschooling
Not yet.
them.
Yeah.
But we're actively involved in making sure that,
that
they're A and B students.
Awesome.
A couple of them get straight A's depending on the semester, and they're in an A school. So I don't like all the stuff that they get taught, but we got to undo some of it.
For me, it's just teaching them to socialize. I think that's important. Like, hey, no matter what happens there, it's okay to commit mistakes. I guess that's one thing that I hated when I was a kid, which is pressure was there. You got to get that medal. You got to be in the top 10. You got to have your ace. And you know, one time I remember my brother, because I have a brother who was like 12 years younger than me. There was a moment where I didn't have kids then. He was crying. He was sobbing because he was showing me his report card and it had one -7, and -7 is like an F. You know, I think it was so nervous about it because he saw my achievements. Like, you know, when he was younger and he saw my medals at home, and my grandfather, my grandmother were just telling him, hey, you know what, your brother, your older brother's doing this, doing that. And then I told him, said, hey, I literally ripped the report card and said, hey, this means nothing. Like, numbers will never define you. And right now he's earning more than people his age right now. He's working with me in a company and he's just homeschooling himself. It's like, dude, that's crazy, man. And teaching kids right now, it's so powerful. In the morning, I remember making them breakfast. I just play this in the background while they're half awake. You know, they're half awake, just trying, like, early in the morning. School here is at 6 a.m. before. Crazy for kids. Wake up in the morning, and while their subconscious is still open, I play some I am affirmations for kids.
Yes.
Like, I am awesome. I am capable. And I just put that in their heads. And I remember one time hearing them say, hey, daddy, I am awesome. I was like, yes, you are. And for me, that was like, wow, it works. It gets in their head.
I have a couple videos on Facebook on my profile page that are on there of us doing affirmations before we go to sleep. And one kid will lead and the other kids will follow. It'll be like, there's like 20 of them, and any one of the boys can lead the entire affirmations and everybody speaks after them. So it's one of the last things we try to put in their heads at night. That's something I also have got to get back to. I was doing it every single day for years. And
same.
You know
I lost
what I mean?
track, man.
You know, so you said something else about them being sociable. sociable. I
Yeah.
think a lot of them being sociable has got to do with fear of embarrassment.
Sure.
Right? Because it's
Yeah.
one of the biggest fears of a human being. People probably laugh at this, but like I'm super, super silly with my kids. I've literally, Michael Jackson has came on the radio before, and we've been in a parking lot, and I literally got out of the car and started doing Michael Jackson in the parking lot in front of other people just to try to embarrass them young, right? So that they get desensitized.
Embarrass them young.
The school parking lot, when we're dropping them off in the morning, I'll open the sunroof, put all the windows down, put on YMCA as loud as possible, the song YMCA. And we have teachers and police officers that are doing the YMCA as we drive up, and they would scoot down in their seats at first, but now, you know, it's kind of becoming a part of them, and it's okay to be silly. We lose that when we get to be adults. We have that as kids, and there's life inside of that, right? We're either breathing life or death into our own lives. We're speaking life or death into them. Why not be silly? Why not take life less seriously and ourselves less seriously?
You know, for someone who has achieved massive success and still is on the journey towards greater success, like a lot of people wouldn't expect hearing that from you. You know, just, you know, be silly. Like, you know, my
it's not something that I advertise on Facebook. Right? I'm polarizing on Facebook, so people either love me or they hate me on Facebook. But you don't always get to share those moments of your life. Plus, I'm probably not going to put that on social because I'm usually in my pajamas when I'm
right,
messed up hair and everything.
Man.
So I'm that dad.
And you just creating the environment for them. It's like, man, it's like living your life again, but in their own bodies, right? Like
it's giving them permission to be silly. You know,
correct.
So many parents are like, no, don't embarrass me. I'm gonna flip that script on them.
Yeah. So let's go back to living life on your own terms, right? Like you're designing your life, and where you are right now, it's something that was really designed. There's a blueprint. You follow the blueprint. I'm sure there were a lot of hiccups along the way. Take us back to the beginnings of Lead Ninja and the companies that you built. What were some of the most, I guess, heartbreak moments that you had? What are some of the heartbreak moments? I know there's a lot.
There's many.
If there's one that still stings right now, whether it's a relationship broken or like maybe a debt that you weren't able to, rise above, tell us.
Well, I've always risen above the debts, and those come anytime you're going to take risks, right? Because not every risk that you're going to take is going to work out. I was fortunate at the beginning of my career. Almost everything worked out, right?
Yeah.
But those are easier to overcome than the relationships. For instance, when I first started my company, I had a relationship with another sales trainer who I had been mentored by for a long time, and who I'd followed and I'd respected for a long time. And some things happened there, and this person got upset that I was going to be doing sales training as well, right? So rather than talk to me about it, he went online and began to just try to destroy me and my family. And he had a much bigger following than me at the time. I'm not the type of person that is going to get online and argue with people and talk smack. Well, it doesn't make anybody look good. And what do I seek to gain from doing that is the question I ask myself. And as a result of that, a lot of business actually came my way. People knew me that didn't ever know me before and would call me up and do business with me. But to this day, it's been about 7 years. Every single month, it's something, right? Some sort of attack. And I've reached out 24 times trying to see what can be done to make this person feel better about themselves and about what's going on, and try to bury that hatchet. But it's never happened, and I don't think it will happen. So it's something that it stings less today. But at the time, it was absolutely heartbreaking. I had no other mentors. I've been praying for other mentors, like literally praying to God, I need some new mentors because I feel like I've outgrown this one. That took me out for about 2 years. I didn't market for 2 years. I literally stopped all my marketing, and it was a massive holdback in my life. I kind of parked, like Les Brown says.
I can imagine, because that's someone that you looked up to.
Yeah.
Like, heartbreaking, man. It's like a breakup with a best friend is worse than a breakup with a girlfriend.
Right. And the thing also is that he would continue to tell lies, things that weren't true.
Wow.
And when that happens, you want to lash back out at somebody. You want to lash back out and you want to defend yourself.
Why didn't you?
Because I felt like somebody said to me one time about this person, they says, so-and-so was online, bashing you again today, and you don't respond. And I said, I'm not going to. They said, it looks like he's standing out in the road just beating the crap out of himself. If I was to match that energy, then what would the perception of me be? And how would I be utilizing that situation to help others? Because I don't get what I want in life without helping people. I'm just going to let that person be loud. I'm going to let them be a hater. And then people follow me as a result. And then they get to make their own opinion, right? So it's a gift. It's like Grant says, if you got 100 haters, get you a 1,000. But it's also, it takes something to learn how to deal with the hate.
Correct.
In my industry, I get more hate than all the other guys combined. All of them combined. But I'm the best at what I do. I'm not going to say anything more about that or what that means or if there's any correlation, but I get all of the hate and people coming at me from all sides. I charge more than anybody else. I deliver a service that's better than everybody else's, and I care more than everybody else. So it's going to come. It's going to come. I have to be ready for it.
Right.
And I'm good with it. Literally had somebody 2 weeks ago, some other dude who's trying to be a guru went online and said some nasty stuff about me. This other guy calls me. He goes, "Hey, can I buy a ticket to your course?" I'm like, "Yeah, how did you hear about it?" It's $7,500, by the way. He's like, "This other dude, so-and-so, was talking crap about you online." And I figured if I got to see what this is all about, I want to take the class. And nobody that has ever taken my class would be the people to be saying those things, because when you come and you spend 3 days with me, you get to see my heart.
Authenticity.
And these other people have never seen my heart.
The worst critics are those who never had an interaction with you.
Their opinion of me is none of my business. That's what one of my other mentors told me about a year ago. He goes, "Listen, Gene, their opinion of you is none of your business." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome." I agree with you.
Profound. Getting what gold else, nuggets man? Here. This is getting gold nuggets here. Hey guys, if you're getting a lot right now, just put it in the comments. Leave your love in the comment section or share this podcast to as many people as you can. We got Gene Slade here, CEO of Lead Ninja. Let's talk about principles, Gene. Like principles that brought you to where you are right now, that's going to help your 25-year-old self. What would make you accelerate yourself if you were to talk to your 25-year-old self to be at the level that you're at or greater? What are some of the principles that you learned along the way that you just want to throw back and advance to that person?
Number one, I would tell myself to think a lot bigger. Think a lot bigger than you're thinking right now. The goals that I've set for myself are too low, right? I believe that more times in life, people are unsuccessful, not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. So there's less competition for the bigger goals. So that's one thing for sure that I would say to myself. The other is that I should spend as much money as I can on people who will help me to take time and compress it. So I should be hiring coaches. I should be hiring attorneys. I should be hiring more employees, people whose knowledge is beyond mine so that they can speed up my learning process. Because I don't want to cut a new road through a forest. I want to find the man who already built the road and I want to pay a toll, right? So I hire coaches. I spent $100,000 with Grant Cardone just learning stuff, buying programs and stuff. So I've invested tons and tons of time and energy in that growth. I would for sure tell myself, spend every dollar you can on personal growth.
If there's a third one, what would be?
Don't take yourself seriously.
Be silly.
Seriously. And don't listen to the haters. Their opinions are none of your business. And that those haters are going to pay you. Yeah. They pay.
Haters
and
will
then
pay.
Some of the way that they pay is they pay you by getting other people to see you, and then those other
They're
people
marketers.
Yeah, they are. So it's, if you can separate that mentally and really know that it's a gift and you're going to get paid as a result of it. I know that I've made at least $1 million over the last 6 years just as a result of haters.
And now you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. What's next for Gene?
Man, I'm going to continue to do what God put me here to do, which is to help people in the service industries and hopefully beyond the service industries. I want people to be able to make more money by working less and be able to get home for dinner on time so that there is a family structure there. I see so many dudes on a daily basis who grew up without a father, and they were never taught how to be dads, right? And they don't know some of the things that I've learned of being a father. So I love to be able to be there for people in those scenarios too. And inside of our coaching programs and stuff, I mean, we deal with a lot of that stuff that has to do with kids. And people are always saying, hey, listen, this is a business class, sales class, but man, it's helping me at home. So we're going to do that. And then we're also partnering with service companies where I go in and I become a minority partner, and we end up building their sales team for them and helping them exit in, 3 to 5 years. So we've got a few of those deals that we're working on right now. And that's really exciting for me, because the first one we did, I got to walk into the business, and within 30 days, we had doubled the sales that we had did the year before. Everybody's making more money. Everybody's happy. And they say money doesn't make you happy, but neither does poverty. I can promise you that. 100%. Poverty sucks. I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better. It's
yes,
better.
sir. Yes, sir. It is way better, man. Way better. Hey, final message to all the dads, all the men who are just working their asses off, hustling and grinding, and all those people who just are thinking of quitting, thinking of, putting their legs and just resting, putting their butts on the couch. Give me a message, man. Give me a message for all those people who want to keep going, but somehow they're tired, man. They're tired.
Well, I've been told that the only way to fail is to stop. If you want to fail, go ahead and stop. But consider that if you are one of those dads that's working 70 hours a week, consider that that's okay. That it's not right. It's not wrong. It's what's so right now. Okay. And you have got to do that in the beginning if you're an entrepreneur, to create a foundation so that you don't have to go work for somebody else. And then remember, when you are home, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, just try to be present. Put the phone away. Even if you got to go outside and just sit down somewhere, just be present with that kid for 5 or 10 minutes. And you're going to build a lot of trust. You guys are going to need trust as these kids get older. So that's my message to the fathers out there. What you're doing is not wrong. Be present with your wife. Be present with your kids as much as you can.
Come on, man. Hey, take us a quick tour your backyard, man.
So this is a
You're like Ty Lopez right now, man. You're like Ty Lopez.
No,
right now.
no. Ty's place is way bigger, right? But this is you don't find many lakes in Florida.
Yeah.
And this is a lake that we can jet ski on and do other things. And we got some gators right out over the edge, tennis courts and basketball courts. And right beyond the tree, you can't see it, but there's a fitness center. We've got a little
grill there.
Area here, another seating area here. Yeah, there's a smoker over there too, but it's a lot of outdoor space. We really spend almost all of our time outdoors. And there's my beautiful wife, Brittany.
What's up? Hey, Brittany. All right, man. Tell people how they can find you on social.
Facebook at Gene Slade. I think Insta's probably the same. It might be Gene S. Slade, GeneSSLADE. LeadNinjaSystem.com. Those are 3 different ways.
Awesome. And you're also going to find it in the description below. Gene, you have been an amazing person in this podcast, dropping so much gold and so much value bomb. Man, I'm doing that, like really going back in the present. And that's for you and me to get back on, which is really trying to I am affirmations, man. We got to get back to that, like just affirming them every single day.
With you. I learned something else about affirmations just recently. Sure. I've got another coach that I'm doing business with now and getting mentorship from. And as it turns out, you can take those affirmations and put them really, really, really low to where they're not even audible. Sit your phone next to your bed, and your subconscious is actually going to pull those vibrations and that stuff. And you can hear it. You just can't hear it consciously.
Really?
This is the new information that I'm finding.
Like
I've got a 10-hour
frequency.
loop. Yeah, I got a 10-hour loop of affirmations. I'm going to give my buddy a plug. Food Dog Group, FUDOG. Food Dog Group. If you go and you subscribe to their YouTube page, and then type in affirmations when you're searching inside of the YouTube channel, there's a 10-hour track of affirmations that just will keep going and going and going and looping. I'm doing it right now. We're going to see whether or not it works. Science says it does.
Awesome, man. Gene, you have been louder your entire life, and you continue to become louder. What's louder for Gene?
Man, I think it's just about not being afraid to put yourself out there, right? If like Grant says, if you don't know me, you can't flow me, right? If you don't know me, then you can't do business with me. So Get on your box. You've got a message. You've got something that God gave you. Stand up on that box and shout your message. All right. It's your duty. It's your responsibility.
Obligation.
So God put you here for.
Here, 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, all around the world listening to this podcast, we got Gene Slade, CEO of Lead Ninja. Again, this has been another crazy episode. Gene, thank you, my man. Thank you so much for the value dropping in our audience right now. Guys, it's been a crazy episode of the Louder Podcast. We're going to see you in our next episode. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. Be great and be louder.
No matter how noisy the world gets, no matter how loud the world gets,
our goal is simple. Influence
and
and activate.
You can always
be louder.
Be louder.